My name is Anna Pasternak, and welcome to the AJN's new podcast, Conversations That Count. Today I have the pleasure of talking to Rana Dadpour, an Iranian activist who fled Iran 11 years ago and has made her home here in Australia. As the saying goes, your enemy's enemy is your friend. And in the spirit of friendship, I'd like to welcome Rana to Conversations That Count. So Rana, thank you again. And please can we start by if you can just tell us a little bit about your background and when you left Iran and under what circumstances.
Hi, Anna. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and, to share some of the points of view of Iranian people, not the regime. So thank you for having me here. Well, I left Iran in 2012. I have been active, just normal civil activism by, being loud at university or not complying perfectly with the
This is
hijab.
back in Iran.
Yeah, back in Iran before I leave. Just trying to live my life there and resisting through everyday, defiance. But then what happened, it was just at the time of one of the mass protests. And when I joined the streets, I saw the brutality and violence of the regime and IRGC, forces firsthand.
Give me an example of what kind of things you saw and witnessed yourself.
Yeah, so I saw they hitting people, they shooting people. I was on one of the rooftops at the university, Sharif University, and they threw tear gas at us. We couldn't even breathe, and we could not even leave university because forces were trying to block all doors around university. A huge crowd, but at the same time, intense brutality and violence too. So it was very scary, and the moment that it clicked in my brain, and it was a moment that I thought, it's Iran, I can't stay in Iran anymore, was the moment that one of these forces held his gun towards me and shouted at me, "What are you doing here? You leave now or I'll shoot you." So that was a moment I just thought to myself, like, I don't want to die. I want to live. Like, whatever I'm doing, the resistance, whatever I'm joining, the activism, it's for life. It's to live a free life, and I don't want to die right now. And it was the moment that I started thinking about leaving Iran, and then I left in 2012, came to Australia on a student visa, studying a PhD here. So lived a very different life,
Is it unusual for women to be highly educated in Iran? I mean, you obviously are very, very highly educated, and I've heard that the Iranian population generally is a highly educated one. Is that correct among women as well?
The population in Iran is very highly educated, yes, and women specifically, they are highly educated. They go to university, they study. I myself did my master's degree back in Iran. I used to teach at university there. Many of my students were, younger women and girls. And education, I think it's actually one of those tools that the civil society in Iran has in order to push back, the barbaric narrative that the regime tries to enforce through TV and media and everything. But the population is very highly educated.
It's really interesting because you'd kind of expect, with such disrespect towards women and the treatment of women in Iran, you'd expect them to not be educated, like in Afghanistan, where the girls can't go to school. So how do you explain that the Iranian regime is allowing a high level of education for the women?
Yeah, it's very interesting you say that, Anna, because, Iranian women started to gain, lots of rights and, their civil rights to education, for example, and family before the Islamic Revolution happens. At the time, before it was ruled by Islamists. And Interesting point is that as soon as the Islamic Revolution happened, this regime closed universities. They closed universities for 2 years, so no one was allowed to go to university. Well,
Men
because
and women.
men and women, yeah,
That was to
specifically,
control the population and keep them
it was
under.
a way to control the population, to control the narrative, and basically because, well, they probably see education, as their main enemy. Knowledge is their main enemy. Critical thinking that is born inside university and academic context is their enemy. So they closed their university, called it purification of education, and basically they dismissed any academic who dared to speak against them or they suspected might have different opinions or, not supporting them. And after that, after those 2 years, when they opened universities, they started to put lots of pressure on women. So first of all, women had to cover, wear the full hijab in order to be able to go to university and gain an education.
Can you
And
just
then
explain to me and to the community, a full hijab, is that covering the face or is that showing the face but the rest is covered?
the face is shown, but it's the hair. So it's like a scarf on the hair, or it's not exactly a scarf for universities. It's a closed scarf. So the front of the scarf is closed. We call it nae. And wearing dark colors. So also like bright colors were not allowed either.
And
But
clothes underneath.
long sleeves, long something we call manteau. I think it's a French word. So it looks like a long shirt, and then pants, white, loose pants underneath.
And all
So
black, or you can mix it up.
dark colors specifically. So it could be black, it could be very dark blue or brownish color.
So if I'm walking around Tehran today, if I was to walk around Tehran today, would I see women with their hair uncovered, or it's just not possible to take that risk and uncover your hair?
So since the Women Life Freedom Movement in 2022, I think Iranian women are gaining a little bit of that self-confidence to be, more visibly resistance towards this enforcement of, clothes and wearing the scarves and covering their hairs. So I would say if you go into, areas in Tehran that are middle class and, and the general population are supportive, so they would see women walking with no headscarf. Still, they are risking getting arrested, so it doesn't mean that they are free to do so. They choose to be visible and taking the risk. So I've seen many videos turning around, in social media that's showing the videos of, for example, shopping centers or malls in Tehran, women with no headscarves or not covering their hair and saying, oh, Iran is free now, women can do whatever they want. That is not the case. That's actually a part of the resistance that is ongoing. And still, when you go to, more, small towns or villages, women cannot enjoy, that support either, and that support. And it's not like it's happening all over the country.
Right. I mean, it's interesting because, like you said, on social media, I don't know if it's the regime that's spreading this to show women uncovered, to say, look, they're so free. What are they talking about? That the resistance is lying. But of course, we know firsthand through Kylie Moore Gilbert's experience of what it is like to live to be attacked by the regime and to have that terrible experience of being imprisoned for no apparent reason, trumped up charges, and years, sometimes months in isolation, years in prison, and horrific human rights abuses. So you fled basically Iran. You decided you couldn't live under these conditions, and you came to Australia. So you've been here now for 11 years and you work as an academic. What is it like? I just want to focus a little bit on the last couple of weeks because, of course, it's been an extraordinary time for my community and for your community as well, and for your family back at home. Can we hear a little bit about what you're hearing from back home?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's very people are fearful, you know. It's the fear of, you know, because they don't know what is happening specifically. One of the problems, the major problems that we have with this regime is lack of transparency and the misinformation and propaganda machine that is working. So, for example, there are notes and announcements that people should evacuate specific neighborhoods, not to get, you know, to be safe. But those announcements are not being shared with people. And people have to figure it out, you know, through social media.
Now, is the
Now
internet
that
up
the
or
internet,
down?
pardon?
Is the internet working or not working at the
No,
moment?
that's the next point I'm getting to. And now that the internet is down, people cannot even share this announcement with each other. So they are actually disabled, you know, from getting any type of information and crippled, you know, and that brought lots of fear and concern towards people. They want to live their lives. They want to go shopping, you know, get something or visit an elderly or a sick person, and they don't know if it is safe even to leave the house. And at the same time, there are no places that they can go to protect themselves. You know, the Ayatollah, the great leader, he is now in a bunker hiding, but there are no place for the people to go to be protected. No
You don't
shelter.
have bomb shelters like they do
There
in
are
Australia.
no bomb shelters.
Can
Yeah.
I just ask you, I heard that Elon Musk has switched on Starlink, which is the satellite internet. Do you hear anything about that? Are Iranians able to access this internet through there?
I I don't exactly understand what's the vibe about that, because first of all, they, even if they have a Starlink, they can't pay for it. You know, Iranian people we don't have credit cards in Iran. The banking system is not connected to the international system. So even if I manage to send you know, the system inside Iran, they can't pay for anything. And then the other thing is that yeah, they can't get specifically connected. There are a few, what I've heard, there are these NGOs in diaspora who are trying to send some of these satellites inside Iran, you know, and what I hear is that there are activists and people who are connected in there, but I don't think it's even 1% of the population. So when we see total blackout of internet, it's, you know, people are in darkness. There's complete silence. We
So
don't
there's
hear of
complete
people.
confusion and lack
Yeah,
of
the reason.
coordination.
Yeah, the other reason, if like those people who have this option, they are so scared to get connected in those times to put the information out, because then it will be so easy to track them down. You know. Yeah, so it's very, very scary times. Everything is severely policed right now. These last few days, over 600 arrests, just, you know, on the baseless charges of spying for Israel. And yeah, execution started as well. So yeah, very scary time. Even if I manage to talk to my family or friends down there, they are just like, oh, hi, hello, we're okay. Hung up, you know, they don't even dare to speak because they're feeling like their phones are being tracked, or yeah.
So when we talk about regime change, how are you feeling in regards to the chances of that happening moving forward? And is the reason that we're not seeing, we saw these enormous demonstrations a few years ago, massive, massive numbers of people on the streets. Where are they now? Are they not able to coordinate and communicate with each other? Or is it that they're just too scared to come out?
It's a mix of reasons here. They don't know exactly when the bombs are falling, where they are falling, if they are close, to an IRGC base, or if there's anything underneath their houses. They don't know. So yeah, there are lots of fears going on at the same time with all this policing and internet being cut off. They can't even communicate and organize anything. And so it's a mix of the fear and the lack of access to information, unable to be, to contact each other and arrange anything. And at the moment, honestly, they are trying just to survive, to stay alive, both from the missiles and also from, the IRGC, forces that have been put all these road checkpoints now. So even if they try to drive somewhere, they have to stop on the road. Their phones are being checked. Their cars are being checked. And
falling as well. So it's
exactly. And if there's any
paralyzed.
single message or social media post or photo is to be find out in their phones, they will get arrested. So very scary time for people inside Iran right now.
And how are the Iranians feeling about this whole Israeli attack on the nuclear facilities and the attempt to stop the ballistic missile capabilities of the IRGC?
Yeah, and I don't think I'm able to put a name on this specific feeling that we have right now. It's such a mixture of, emotions and roller coaster of these emotions. Sometimes there's despair being, dominated. Sometimes it's hope getting dominated. It's fear, They get the news of an IRGC commander being targeted, so there's happiness about that. So it's just a roller coaster, and I think the majority of people, what they feel is that they are glad that the bases and the infrastructure of repression and terror are being targeted and destroyed, because these are exactly the infrastructure that targets them as well, as Iranian people. It does target, Israeli people. It does target, other communities around Middle East, in Syria, in Yemen, in Lebanon. We've seen what they do. And Iranian people are being targeted as well. So that is a sense of relief. But at the same time, it's missiles. They are falling and they can't see. They are
like just a whole blanket of not enough information for people to come together and really rise up at the moment. So it does make sense that the streets are still relatively quiet. We're not hearing of major rallies taking place. But it will be interesting to see during the ceasefire, which we'll talk about in a minute, but during the ceasefire, whether this will give an opportunity to the Iranians to finally come out, because the bombs will obviously stop and it might give that opportunity to rise up. What kind of conditions do you think it'll take for the people to come out back onto the streets and start regime change?
Well, I think right now, with the regime being weakened and, many of those repression infrastructure have been destroyed, if people feel safe and, have a sense of, security and protection around themselves, they could come out. I don't know. I can't say for sure. It's very difficult, because right now the sense I'm getting is just survival. With all with all that is happening, with the lack of information and all these mixed messages they get from Western leaders, or let's make Iran great, and then the next day regime change, and then the next day, let's have a ceasefire. And people are like, well, what's going on? Like, what is going to happen to us?
I understand that when Obama was in power and he encouraged the resistance to rise up and then proceeded to abandon them, I would imagine that trust in the American administration is probably not very high. How do you feel about that? Do they trust Trump?
Oh, can we trust? I think the question is, can we trust Trump? In just the span of 24 hours, he changed from regime change to ceasefire. So, and none of them would happen through tweets, and there are not much information people getting. So I think with the history that Iranian people have, with rising up so many times in mass protest and being abandoned by international community and Western governments, I don't think there is much trust right now. There might be hope, but yeah, but I think they just have to wait and see. That's the sense I'm getting. Everyone is so confused right now. What I've been hearing, I was talking to a few people this morning after the ceasefire. They were very confused and saying, "Well, okay, no bomb, that's good, but what about us? Like, are they going to sit again with the regime and do the same thing that they did, you know, at the time of Women Life Freedom Movement, Green Movement, you know, and all those other uprisings that Iranian people had." I remember even at the time of, you know, Obama, people inside Iran during one of these demonstration days, they were chanting, "Obama, Obama, you either with us or with them," you know. So they clearly demanded the support of, you know, Western governments and international community, but they were betrayed. They were betrayed, and I think that left a very bitter taste in, you know, among Iranian people.
How do you find the Australian government in regards to Iran? Because we obviously are very focused on their policies towards Israel, which have been, quite frankly, lacking, to say the least. I'm using diplomatic term here. How has it been for the Iranians in the diaspora and in particular in Australia?
Yes, well, the Australian government, the diaspora, the sense that I'm getting from people in our community, is that they are not exactly happy with what is going on. They've been asking for, you know, more stronger opposition to the regime and what it's doing, specifically in regards to human rights abuses that is happening in Iran. At the time of women like freedom movements during those couple of years, you know, 2022 and after, Iranian community, Iranian Australian community, we demanded repeatedly in a united voice that the IRGC must be put on the terrorist list because they are a terrorist organization, as simple as that. But that request never gained any support from the government. And you know what, Anna, I think if we and the Australian government and the Western governments, if we supported Iranian people in any of these uprisings, and the last one, the Women Life Freedom, we wouldn't be here today.
So why? Why? It doesn't make sense. Why is the West not supporting this cause? I mean, we are so gaslit in our community and told that we're the baddie in all of this. I'm listening to you. I know a little bit about Iran, very little. The little that I know, it just seems so black and white. Why on earth are the West not getting behind this?
I wish I knew the answer to this. I can only guess. That they got us sucked so much into this idea that the regime has been there because people wanted it to be there. They still have not believed that Iranian people are different from this regime, that this regime does not represent Iranian people and is not a legitimate government or state or, you know, system sitting up there making decisions for Iranians. And I honestly, I don't know. Iranian people have been in the streets. You know, they've demanded their freedom. They told the world, and here in Australia, the diaspora told the Australian people and the government and politicians that, look, this system, the Islamic Republic regime, has taken Iran and Iranian people as their hostages. They are consuming and, you know, wasting Iranian people's lives and futures and Iran's resources to expand its own terror network and to suppress Iranian people as well. And I don't know why they don't believe it. I don't know why they don't get into behind them. I think it's just that the whole world, like, I think they got us stuck into this binary that Iranian people have to be either bombed or silenced. And there is no other way out of it. They haven't come to the conclusion that they need to listen to the Iranian people's voice and to prioritize human rights and Iranian people's dignity and agency over all these geopolitical games and theaters and tweets and, you know, this for that we're seeing right now. I wish I had a clear answer, but
Well,
yeah,
I think
that's
that the Iranian regime is the rightful regime. All they have to simply do is have open and free elections, and then it'll resolve that question, and we'll see what the Iranian people really want. But of course, that's never going to happen and hasn't happened in 47 years.
it hasn't happened for 47 years, and I think if the international community gets behind it, that could lead to a positive outcome. You know, these elections that are happening that have been happening in Iran over these 40-something years, they are not elections. They are just a show. And this is what we've been trying to tell the international community and Western governments, that only because they are being called elections, it doesn't mean people have a choice here. We need international, international community to actually oversee something like that. We need something to be initiated by international community so Iranian people actually feel safe and free to say what they want.
They're so frightened and they're so terrified of the consequences of speaking honestly and openly. Can I just ask?
Still, with all that fear and with all that is happening, the diaspora led surveys of over 200,000 Iranians inside and outside Iran, it tells us that over 80% of Iranian people do not want this regime.
Can I just ask you, so I understand that there's a huge number of Iranians living in the diaspora. Is it around 9 million, something like that?
Yes, I think it's something like that. We don't even have proper numbers about that.
Yes. So there's a large community. Most of them are where are most Iranians living? Outside.
Most of them, well, they are in USA and Canada. Those two have one of the major, population of Iranian diaspora. Yeah, it's very interesting you say that, because wherever you go, you can find Iranians. I've been traveling with my husband, yes, visiting a few different countries, and everywhere we went, I had friends there. We went to Bahamas, I had friends. We went to Canada, I had friends. We went to New Zealand, I had friends. It's all these different countries. And he was amazed. He's Australian. He's not Iranian or from Iranian, he was amazed. It's just like, you Iranians are everywhere. I'm just like, yeah, this regime pushed us out, We either, in Iran, if we want to raise our voices, we either will end up in jail or we have to leave the country. Like, there's no third option.
Ask you, are they a tight community, or they're very dispersed? Because we haven't seen huge demonstrations. I thought that because the Iranians are too petrified, for good reason, to come out against the IRGC inside the borders of Iran, you would think that the diaspora would be rallying and trying to persuade the Western regimes to get behind this and support them in mass rallies.
At the time of Women Life Freedom movement, if you remember, there have been mass rallies all around the world, hundreds of thousands of people. We had one of the largest one in Berlin, even here in Sydney. We had over 10,000 Iranian Australians and, Australian community joined the rally as well, to ask for regime change and to ask the Australian government and Western communities to get behind Iranian people. So that has happened. Even diaspora have shown what they want, and they've been clear and united and very consistent about it as well. Right now, I think it's so much fear going on about what is going to happen, because, well, Anna, at the end of the day, no one likes war. And at the same time, they don't want this regime either. So what would be the perception if right now the Iranian Australian community would come out and, have a demonstration? Would it be perceived as as a support for the regime in Iran?
No, I mean, clearly you'd have to have the right messaging to say that we support the rising up and the removal of this fascist.
That has been something that we have been trying to convey through, interviews and writing up things and everything else that we've been doing. I think the trust is also here an issue as well. Like Iranian Australian diaspora, we have been on the streets for the Women Life Freedom movement, and we didn't see any tangible, meaningful actions and results from that. And right now, and I think it's just what is unfolding right now is so stressful for the community to watch from afar here as well. So a lot of traumas going on. Many of us have lived through the Iran-Iraq war, and relieving those traumas also, I think it has a crippling effect on the community as well.
It must be absolutely terrifying at the moment. And obviously in Israel, they're also living in fear. So the Iranians have managed to bring enormous misery right across the Middle East. I know just now as we're speaking, there are sirens going off, and my family are taking shelter and friends are taking shelter. And we have this ceasefire coming in a few hours, supposedly. How do you feel about the ceasefire, and what do you think the results of this ceasefire might be?
I have to say that my heart goes out to all Israeli people who are going, through this as well. The missiles that are falling on Israel are not from the Iranian people; they are from the regime in Iran. And our communities, our people, Israelis and Iranians, we used to live, peacefully and next to each other, live a nice life before this regime comes into power. But right now, it's the terror that is expanding through the whole region and in Iran as well. It's hurting everyone, Iranian people and Israeli people and everyone else in the Middle East, I guess. With a ceasefire, of course, a ceasefire will bring less destruction. At least people would know that there would be no missiles falling on them. At the same time, there is a huge fear right now going among the Iranian community and even Iranian Australians here as well, like what would come after the ceasefire. So it's not the ceasefire itself that is a question, it's what comes after that, what will happen post-war, because from the history of this regime, we know that, and we've seen it several times, that whenever it's get humiliated and wounded like that on international level, what happens? It turns inward.
Yes.
And start repressing Iranian people. It starts mass executions, it starts mass arrests of Iranian people. It's already happening. And that's a great fear among Iranian people. So the main question I've been seeing the last couple of hours since the talks of ceasefire came through, it was the question of what now? Is the international community going to leave us again with this regime and abandon us with this wounded snake that we don't know what is going to do? So a lot of concern here we have. They removed a lot of political prisoners who have been in Evin in the last couple of hours to an undisclosed location. We don't even where are they now.
Because the Israelis bombed it? Or was this before they bombed it?
It was right after that.
Because they're scared they're going to escape, or?
What I've read and what I've heard, it was only the gate and the official, the admin area. So I don't think anyone could, escape. But there were gunfires have been heard, and all the roads to Evin have been closed. And then the last news we have is that many of them have been taken to locations that we don't know. We don't even know what happened. We don't know if anyone got hurt, any of the political prisoners. So the lack of information is killing us here, Anna.
Do the Iranians know what happened on the 7th of October? Are they aware of a truthful account of what took place, or is it just all propaganda that's reaching the population?
I think it's a common knowledge among Iranian community, specifically Iranian Australians, that the regime in Iran, it's been behind all these attacks. Well, I think it's a common knowledge, like for over 40 decades, they've been chanting,
Death to America.
Slogans, death to America, death to Israel, we are going to wipe this country off the map. So we've heard it, I've been through the brainwashing all over, in the education. As a primary school child, a 7-year-old girl, I was enforced to chant those slogans at the school. But with the access to the, to information that people have, and with what they've seen from the brutality and violence that have been, targeted towards Iranian people themselves, they know that it was the regime who is responsible for whatever happening right now. So yes, if any civilians are getting killed here in this process, I've heard it, I've seen it on social media that they curse the regime in Iran, this happened, that happened, damn this regime must go. So they are very well aware that as long as this regime is in power, Iran or Middle East or the whole world will not see the face of peace.
Yeah. It's definitely the root of all evil in the Middle East at the moment, and has caused untold pain to millions and millions of people, and continues to cause that terrible pain. I think Israelis are at the absolute forefront of this, along with the Iranian people. I mean, we are fighting the same monster, and we know what evil is, and we know what destruction this regime is causing you and us, and it is time it came to an end. Let's hope that we see a change. Can I just ask you, looking forward, I mean, sooner or later this regime will collapse. Sooner or later there will be regime change. How do you envisage it? What kind of Iran do you see rising out of a regime change?
Iran is a population of 90 million people, highly educated, very progressive, and diverse as well. With over 80% of the population, supporting regime change, basically. We know that Iran can raise from this and turn into a democratic, free country if we prioritize justice and human rights right now. if we start supporting Iranian people and echo their voices. Because, yeah, as you said, this will happen sooner or later. This regime will go. No system, with such corruption and brutality and incompetence and dishonesty and the constant lyings to its own people and the international community, they can't survive. They can't survive this. And right now, getting so weakened and wounded, they will go. They will go. They will end. And Iranian people, they have shown that they can get united and build the future that they are imagining.
I'm sure it must be both terrifying but exciting as well to think that the regime may be in its last gasps of life. And do you think that Khomeini's death will make any difference to this, or do you think that already the machine is much bigger than Khomeini?
Khamenei, yeah, well, he's been hiding in his bunker, hasn't he? We haven't heard from him. So yeah, that
He's
turned.
not alive. Maybe he died on us.
Who knows? Yeah, that's the thing. Who knows?
They lie so much. Who knows? He might be dead. He's an old man.
Yeah, he's very old too. So he's, even if he survives this, he's not going to survive forever. But the regime in Iran is more than Khamenei himself. It's a network of terror. It's a network of corruption, and that is the thing that Iranian people have been asking to dismantle. So it's not that like they've been chanting for a different leader or for a different person or something like that. It's a system. It's a network of terror, network of incompetence, network of lies and brutality and intense violence that they've been asking for it to get dismantled. But we saw it, what happened to them every time too. So I don't know what will happen right now. I can't tell the future. But I can keep this hope inside me that, when this regime goes, Iran will be free and it will be, a democratic country based on human rights for everyone, all the minorities, and everyone in the country, and also justice. Justice is a very important thing here. There have been so many victims of this regime, and they've been asking for justice for such a long time. And I hope whatever happens, they will get a justice as well.
So do I, very, very much. And I hope it's very soon, because they've waited a very long time and suffered incredibly under this terrible dictatorship. I just wanted to ask you, I recently heard Prince Reza Pahlavi give a press conference. How do you feel about the return of the royal family back into Tehran? Is that an option that's a good option or a bad option?
Well, of course, Pahlavi has his own base of supporters, both inside Iran and in diaspora as well. So he has always had this base of supporters, and I think his mother specifically is a very well respected woman in community. At the same time, Iranian community is also very diverse too, so at the end of the day, I think we need to put the focus on having a regime change that is people-led, having a regime change that is supported by the Western, governments, not instigated by them. When we echo the voice of the people, when we engage them in real policy shaping, then that's when we can reach to justice and the democracy that everyone deserves inside Iran, and the peace that everyone deserves in the Middle East and in the world. Because at the end of the day, this regime is not only Iranian people's issue, it's a terror network, and the world needs to do something about it, because otherwise, if they want only to go, through a negotiation right now with the regime, it's only a recipe for a disaster again in near future. They are going to gain their power, they are going to gain, rebuild what they've lost these last few days. So that wouldn't be a permanent answer. A permanent answer is to support a people-led transition towards democracy, freedom, and justice for all Iranians.
Thank you, Rana. Thank you so much for talking to us at this incredibly difficult time. And my heart goes out to you and your family and your friends back home, who no doubt are living through a very, very challenging period, as are my family. And we stand together shoulder to shoulder with you, with the Iranian people who want freedom, who want democracy, who want justice. And we pray that one day soon I will be visiting Tehran for my holiday, and you'll come to Jerusalem, and we will have a much, much better future ahead.
I hope that's the future that we all see very soon. And I want to say that, our heart also goes to the Jewish community here in Australia as well, who are watching this from afar, and their concerns and worries for their families and all civilians in Israel as well. So we are worried for our families back in Iran, but we know that this regime, what it's doing, it will come to an end, hopefully. Let's keep that hope alive in our hearts. And I hope that day will come that our two peoples can again live side by side in peace and in harmony together.
Amen.
Amen to that.